Major airlines depend on Microsoft Windows. They were affected rather dramatically. We had 3,400 flight cancellations on Friday.
How often have you found yourself frustrated with a delayed flight? It seems that the reason for this is because the major budget airlines of the world are struggling to survive. If you were traveling by air on Friday the 19th of July 2024, it must have been a chaotic day for you. A major IT system failure caused flight delays and cancellations at airports worldwide, creating a mess in most of the hustling airports. Let's check out which airlines and airports got affected. In North America, major airlines like American Airlines, United Airlines, and Delta Airlines were grounded early in the morning, but began to resume flights later in the day. American Airlines quickly resolved their issues, while Delta and United warned of additional suspensions. But the striking news was that it was not just these flights, but other airlines like Country Sun, Allegiant Air, Frontier, and Spirit Airlines also faced disruptions, while Southwest Airlines and JetBlue were unaffected. Toronto-based Porter Airlines cancelled flights until noon due to prolonged outages affecting multiple industries globally. The list does not end there. In Mexico, low-cost airlines Volaris and Viva Aerobus were impacted as well. Passengers at Los Angeles International Airport experienced a mixture of delays and cancellations, while at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, operations were mostly smooth despite some challenges. Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport anticipated significant delays and cancellations throughout the day, urging passengers to verify their flight status and allow extra time for longer lines. Chicago O'Hare Airport had advised passengers to check their flight status and expect longer wait times. At JFK International Airport, LaGuardia, and Newark, the port authorities were not affected by the outage, but some airlines experienced delays and cancellations. Philadelphia International Airport warned of delays and cancellations, and Charlotte Douglas International Airport advised passengers not to come to the airport unless they had confirmed their flight information. Miami International Airport faced slower processing for international arrivals due to US Customs and Border Patrol operations being affected nationwide. The Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, assisted airlines with ground stops and monitored the situation closely, indicating that the IT issue could continue to affect flights over the weekend. So, this widespread tech outage affected various systems, including those used for calculating aircraft weight, checking in customers, and phone systems in call centers. But this is not a common phenomenon. What could have possibly triggered this major tech outage? First, let's make a comparison. 8 years ago, low-cost airlines in the United States were extremely profitable. Southwest Airlines, for example, earned 20 cents of every dollar in operating profit. JetBlue also made 20 cents, Spirit earned 24 cents, and Allegiant made an impressive 30 cents. These profit margins were exceptional, especially in the airline industry. Airline businesses were booming, and passengers benefited from it immensely. A major reason for this is because at the time, fuel prices were low, which helped, but these low-cost carriers, or LCCs, were also outperforming larger airlines. Delta's operating margin was only 19.6%, while United's was 13.6%. Everyone was curious to know how these budget airlines were so successful despite charging lower fees. Fast forward to today, and the situation has dramatically changed. The big traditional airlines have regained their position, while the low-cost carriers are struggling. The operating margins for the LCCs have plummeted to between 5.6 and minus 11.2%, while the larger airlines have margins closer to their peak levels from a few years ago, ranging from 8 to 10.9%. What happened during this time? The most significant event was the COVID-19 pandemic, which caused a massive drop in air travel. A study from 2023 states that the COVID-19 pandemic hit airlines hard, but low-cost airlines handled it better than big network airlines. Big network airlines like American, Delta, and United had to cancel many more flights than low-cost airlines like Southwest and JetBlue. This is because low-cost airlines have cheaper tickets and fewer international flights. They also use direct routes that don't need big hub airports. This made travel safer and simpler during COVID-19. Although LCCs handled it during the pandemic thanks to domestic travel, the fact is that they've not bounced back as well as their larger competitors post the pandemic. Although passenger numbers have recovered and even reached record highs in the summer of 2023, budget airlines are still struggling. This is puzzling because more people are flying than ever, but the business model for low-cost carriers in the US seems to be failing. This is why airlines need to explain their financial struggles to investors. For instance, Spirit blames elevated capacity in many of the markets we serve, suggesting that other airlines are offering too many flights. This is partially true. The demand for leisure travel has surged post-COVID, but business travel has not fully recovered. Larger airlines, which traditionally focused on business travelers, have shifted to capture more leisure travelers. For example, Las Vegas had a 10% increase in scheduled flights in 2023 compared to pre-COVID levels, while New York's JFK Airport, a major business hub, had fewer flights. However, Spirit's financial data doesn't fully support the competition narrative. Spirit, this cost jumped 45% from 2021 to 2022, primarily due to the increased fuel prices. When fuel prices surged in March 2022, Spirit's CSAM excluding fuel costs actually decreased slightly. However, for other airlines like Frontier, Allegiant, and Southwest, the CASM excluding fuel costs also increased significantly. So while fuel prices are a major factor, they aren't the only problem. Another significant issue is irregular operations. It has become a lot harder to run an airline on time in the US. Before the pandemic, Spirit's planes were in the air for over 12 hours a day during peak seasons. Now, they struggle to reach 10.8 hours. Delays and cancellations are more frequent due to several factors, including severe weather and a shortage of air traffic controllers. These issues disproportionately affect low-cost carriers like Spirit, which have many routes to and from places like Florida, prone to hurricanes. Apart from this, Spirit's fleet includes many A320neos with Pratt & Whitney PW110G engines, which have had issues requiring more frequent inspections. This has taken several of Spirit's planes out of service, affecting their operations. JetBlue and Frontier, which also use these engines, have faced similar problems. With these challenges, low-cost carriers have had to reduce their flight schedules to maintain on-time operations. Despite this, Spirit's on-time performance remains weaker than before the pandemic, leading to additional costs like compensating passengers for delays and booking hotels for overnight stays. These factors have increased their operating costs and decreased their aircraft utilization. Is there anything being done to make the situation better? Well, to survive, these airlines are making significant changes. JetBlue, for example, is altering its route map and schedules. They've started offering long-haul flights to Europe with a large number of business-class seats, a departure from the typical low-cost model. They've also adjusted their schedules to reduce capacity in the winter when transatlantic demand is lower, reallocating those planes to domestic routes instead. Additionally, JetBlue is expanding its service out of San Juan, Puerto Rico, turning it into a major hub to connect with Latin America. Frontier is making even more drastic changes. In May 2024, they announced a shift away from the budget airline model by eliminating fees for seat assignments, carry-ons, and change fees. They're also simplifying their operations by focusing more on hub-based routes, which makes their schedule more reliable and reduces delays. Southwest, though not a typical low-cost carrier, is also feeling the pressure. They reported a net loss of $231 million in the first quarter of 2024, their first loss in years. To address this, they're cutting services to certain airports, slowing down hiring, and considering changes to their non-assigned seats model. Despite these efforts, some investors like Elliott Management Investment are pushing for more radical changes, including leadership changes. However, the future of low-cost carriers in the US remains uncertain. The challenges they face, including high fuel prices, operational difficulties, and competition, make it hard for them to maintain their low-cost advantage. As a result, they need to adapt significantly to survive in the changing market environment. So, what are your thoughts on this? Do let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more.